The parable of the prodigal son, found in Luke 15:11-32, is one of Jesus' most well-known teachings. It illustrates themes of forgiveness, repentance, and the boundless grace of God. Let us examine the deeper meanings of this parable. The story begins with a father who has two sons. The younger son asks for his share of the inheritance, which is an unusual and disrespectful request since the father is still alive. Nevertheless, the father grants his request. The younger son takes his inheritance and goes to a distant country, where he squanders all his wealth in reckless living. After spending everything, a severe famine hits the land, and the younger son finds himself in dire need. He gets a job feeding pigs, which is particularly degrading for a Jewish person, as pigs are considered unclean. Starving and desperate, he longs to eat the pods he's feeding to the pigs, but no one gives him anything. In his misery, the younger son comes to his senses and decides to return to his father, hoping to be accepted back not as a son, but as a hired servant. He prepares a speech to confess his sins and acknowledge his unworthiness. As the son approaches home, his father sees him from a distance and is filled with compassion. He runs to his son, embraces him, and kisses him. The son begins to recite his prepared speech, but the father interrupts and calls for his servants to bring the best robe, a ring and sandals for his son, and to kill the fattened calf for a celebration. The father declares that his son, who was lost, has now been found. He was dead, but is alive again. The older son, who has been working in the fields, hears the celebration and becomes angry when he learns the reason. He confronts his father, expressing his resentment that he has never been given such a celebration, despite his years of faithful service. The father gently responds, affirming his love for the older son, and explaining that it is fitting to celebrate the return of the younger son because he was lost and is now found. This parable teaches us the following lessons. 1. Repentance and forgiveness. The younger son's return to his father symbolizes repentance. His father's immediate and unconditional forgiveness represents God's boundless mercy and willingness to forgive those who return to him with a contrite heart. 2. Unconditional love. The father's love for both his sons is unwavering. He rejoices at the return of the wayward son, and reassures the faithful son of his constant love and inheritance. 3. Grace and restoration. The father's actions, the robe, ring, and sandals symbolize full restoration and honor. This illustrates that God not only forgives, but also restores those who come back to him. 4. Self-righteousness. The older son represents the self-righteousness that can prevent people from experiencing the joy of others' repentance and God's grace. His resentment reveals a misunderstanding of his father's love and generosity. 5. Celebration of return. The joyous celebration emphasizes the joy in heaven over one sinner who repents. As illustrated in the other parables in Luke 15, the lost sheep and the lost coin. This parable challenges us to reflect on our own lives and attitudes. It invites those who feel far from God to return to him, assuring them of his forgiveness and love. It also calls those who consider themselves faithful to examine their attitudes towards others who seek repentance, and to embrace the same grace and compassion that God offers. In summary, the parable of the prodigal son is a powerful story that highlights God's mercy, the joy of repentance, and the importance of embracing God's grace both for ourselves and for others.